There's a lot of teams. There's a handful of, I mean, there's a good amount of teams right now under 500. There is a handful of teams that are under 500, but still have a chance to pull something out of this year and salvage it and maybe make a run at the playoffs. So the teams that are under 500 with the best chance of making the playoffs, let's talk about them. Right now, the teams that are currently under 500 include the Jets, Dolphins, the Jags, the Texans. You can already write those two off here. No, definitely not. The Eagles, Washington, the Giants, then the Niners, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Bears, the Lions, and then the Atlanta Falcons. And if you want to go through that list again and look at the teams that actually have a legitimate chance at being one of the better 500 teams, that's going to include the Vikings. It's going to include the Niners and Seahawks. And then no one else besides the Colts. So I'll give it to the Colts, Niners, Seahawks, and Vikings. 4 teams there that actually have a chance at making the playoffs. If you look at the ones in the best position, it probably is because, one of these teams, you're probably going to get second place in their division. So you have the Vikings and you have the Colts. Now, the Colts look real bad early on this year, but things are starting to come together. Jonathan Taylor is looking fantastic, man. I think he's second in the league in rushing yards right now. He's a threat in the passing game. Carson Wentz is loving him. They love those screens as well to him, and it's only going to show that what I said last year is that he was the maybe not the most underrated draft pick in the draft. He was definitely the best one on day 2 for sure, and he was better than a lot of the day 1 picks there as well, especially the running back position. Jonathan Taylor, steal of the draft there. He's been a phenomenal talent for the Colts, and he's really helping. Carson Wentz is looking pretty good this year too, at least in the turnover category, because he hasn't had a whole lot, or maybe in the interception category, because he hasn't had a whole lot there. He's had a lot cleaner play, and that is solely, well, maybe not solely, but that's a lot of that you got to credit and not having to run for his life every single play like he did there in Philadelphia. So it's nice to see that from Carson Wentz. It's nice to see some progression after his regression. Now, on the other hand, you probably have the Vikings, who are talent-wise, they're definitely comparable to the Colts because they have a good quarterback that's slightly underrated. They have a really solid running back there. At least Dalvin Cook, when he stays healthy, a decent offensive line is going to hurt that Hunter's out for the season now. I think he tore his pec. I think that's what it was. That defense has been a bit underwhelming at times, just like the Colts has. So these are 2 really similar teams. And if you look at it, they're probably going to end up second in their division because the Vikings have to compete with the Bears and the Lions. That's not a whole lot of competition. The Colts have to compete with the Jags and the Texans. That's not a whole lot of competition. But if I had to choose between those 2, it's kind of a tough choice, to be honest. But I think I have the most faith in the Indianapolis Colts to be able to turn their season around. I have the most faith in them because I think they're still a good team. If you look at, they're still a good team. They still have talent there. They got off to a poor start, like I mentioned, and that's kind of what hurt them at the beginning because they have losses at the beginning of the season to the Seahawks. It wasn't a competitive game. Then you lose to the Rams at home in a competitive game there as well. That was only a 3-point margin there. And then they have to play against the Rolling Titans. They lose that one. They finally get wins over the Dolphins. They really should have won this game and not even let it get overtime against the Ravens. Should have won that one. You blocked the Texans. You handled the 49ers. And then you lose another really close game to the Tennessee Titans. So this is a team that could, and that was an overtime too, this is a team that really could have 3 more wins than it really does right now. You'll count that last game against the Titans in overtime, against the Ravens, and against the Rams. This team, instead of being 3-5, could be 6-2. This team that could be tied or leading the division right now. So that's why I'm going to go with the Colts as the best team, or as the under 500 team with the best chance of making the playoffs at this point of the season. Could be the Vikings, probably going to be one of those two, but who knows? The Niners and the Seahawks definitely have the ability to surprise us there as well. Let us know. Let us know who you think is the under 500 team with the best chance of making the playoffs, and maybe drop a why as well. Would be fun to talk about that over on, like I said, YouTube comments, Apple Podcasts, or hit us up on our social media platforms.